in case you didn't know.
Now I'm, gotta watch what I say, I guess. But welcome to our April Transit Riders Council meeting. We're not in our normal room, but that's okay, we will adapt. May we have an approval of today's agenda?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
Actually, you'd be a third now,
Oh,
because
I'm
somebody
sorry.
beat you. But
I didn't hear
can
something.
we have an approval of the minutes that you've all received?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, thank you. We will. What was that?
That's just the computer, let's just.
That was somebody coming on, okay. So, normally, I give my. Normally, I would be giving my chair and board report now, but our speakers are here, and we've, as Andy Byford might say, scheduled this differently this month. So, it's a pleasure to introduce Herb Lambert and Mandeep Lally. The reason that I asked these folks to appear today and speak is, not only have I experienced it, but Trudy has, and others of you have mentioned it to me, as have people who just know I'm affiliated with the MTA. Why do, when one train is pulling into a station that has obviously two tracks and one adjoining platform, why does the adjoining train pull out just as my train is pulling in? Obviously, in rush hour, that's a no-brainer. They have to move quickly. But in off-peak and weekends, I've also noticed this, and that's why we've asked you to come to see how these things are scheduled, what the conductors, what instructions they've been given, even if they're, on weekends, some trains we're finding 12 to 15 minute, sometimes 20-minute headways. So if you just miss one, you've got quite an additional wait, to continue your trip. So we're just wondering if the conductors have been told, wait, if you see another train pulling in, don't close your doors until those folks have had a chance to transfer. What is the actual protocol that you're?
Actually, but let me add to that sometimes, and this happens at Grand Central constantly. I told Andrew about it. He said, oh, well, it happens on the west side too. I said, not every single time, and it's a lot. And it happened again today. But the train will actually, the express will actually, it's not that far to walk across the platform, and I have a bad leg, so I walk a little slower. But it almost is like they will slam, as they see people coming across, they will literally slam the door, just as your first person getting off the number 6 reaches it. And it happened again today, and I know he keeps on saying, well, get the car number that pulls out. It's pulling out, and I don't want to go chasing after it and have something else happen. But it happened today at, because I was coming early to meet Andrew, so it was like 11.
Oh, it's non-rush hour.
It's non-rush hour. So it's my fault that you're here today, because I called him up screaming, and he said, well, let them know about it,
No,
Let
I've
her know
experienced
about
it,
it,
other
let
people
Matt-
have told me as well, and it's good to know what the protocol is and how conductors are instructed, if they're running so much. I'll let you do the talking, obviously, there's so many parameters here, but thank you so much for coming and speaking with us.
Is there somebody I should share the screen with? Melissa's on.
I have a PowerPoint deck for Mr. Lambert and Lolly if you can grant me the right to share the screen.
You have been granted.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I'll share my screen right now. And let me know if everyone sees my screen.
Nope, not yet.
And I'm sure, so I can be able, okay.
Okay. Let me try this. How about now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll go on mute and go on full screen. Let me just do.
So, is it in presentation mode?
It should be full screen there.
There we go. Okay, thank you. Looking at that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm looking behind.
Okay, thank you.
Same thing.
Okay, good.
It's not quite, if you look,
Not quite full.
Slideshow.
at the moment.
the slideshow.
In the top left corner, that little, presentation button.
There we go.
There you go.
You have to switch it from the,
Down on the
I
left.
think under display settings, you may be able,
Okay.
That's fine.
There you go.
Yay!
Hey, perfect. It shared the wrong screen, so appreciate your help. There we go.
Other things besides just the connections?
Yeah, Judy, let Judy, let him
Let's
give
start.
his presentation.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your invitation and the opportunity to speak for Subways. I'll just do a quick introduction upon myself, after which Herbie Lambert, the Vice President, Chief Officer of Service Delivery, will go into the particular details. So as you've probably gathered, I haven't got an American accent because I'm not from this part of the world. I'm from London. I've only been here since July 2022, so relatively new.
You have a wonderful English accent.
Oh, thank you. Thank
And
you.
we're used to it because we had somebody else who had an English accent, Sandy.
Yes, I do know it. So, thank you for your time. When I start off these things and get to know people, because I'm still relatively fresh, I always start with an icebreaker. Icebreaker is, in the UK oriented, I use a sports analogy, and there are plenty here to pick from, and it does cause pleasant discussion, let's say, amongst people. And the first one I use is the Mets and the Yankees. I don't have any preference, but I having been on the vintage train or on the Mets opening, it was quite apt that I thought I'd just mention that because it was one, very successful, and two, a real jewel in the crown, let's say. Because that was wonderful. And then I'm going to refer to football and true football and not the soccer sense that you have here. And two teams in terms of the Red Bulls and the New York FC, which again, I find interesting in terms of the allegiances fans have, but that's just a quick observation. So a bit about myself. From London, started off originally working in which is a material manufacturing plant. So I wasn't, I didn't fly straight into university. Spent several years carrying bags, learning to become an electrician. And some very important points there, which shaped my career actually. Shaped it on the basis that when I went back there to do my thesis, I went through the technical library and I couldn't get the information from about a couple of thousand books I went through eventually of what I was looking for in terms of technical data. But I did get it from the electricians that had all the tacit information that just knew it from the top of the head. Moral of the story being is talking to people is priceless. Reading literature books in isolation, and that's where the communication aspect really excels. Post that, spent just under 14 years at London Underground. And within London Underground, I did start on the graduate scheme, did everything from PUA, track, timekeeping, everything in between and projects as well. Led several organizations within there. So it was a real eye-opener and gave my passion for railways. Within London Underground, I left to go to Otis. Completely different industry, based upon on the P&L aspect of how to run a business with shareholders, eBird, profit and loss accounts accordingly, which I wasn't exposed to much in London Underground because of the way it's funded. And then post Otis, I had this opportunity, and I was privileged to be here in MTA. So that's how I've landed here in a whistle-stop tour. In terms of going forward and looking at the overall goals for a cleaner, faster subway in line with, better weekend service and communications. There's a few aspects of which, I think are fundamental. It's first of all, get the basics right. Fundamental principles of are we doing what we say we're going to do, when we're going to do it. The other is I class as PPP, which is something I've honed in during my years. It's about people. People at the heart of everything we do. People follow a process. The process then gives you your performance. Generally, if you go in industries, you find that if you're not having the output, you go to the people to circumvent the process. And as an organization, look at that in greater clarity and depth as technology moves on and skills change as well, with the training in line. And then also just a quick acronym in terms of what we do, why we do it, and when we do it. 3 Ws. Use them in parallel with each other. You can get a lot of information very quickly and get to the root cause of most issues. So they're really some big drivers, as well as looking at our assets which we think are railway, our cars, our infrastructure actually, from an accounting term, probably is. However, the tangible assets are actually our people. How do we maintain our people? The people, you get your success through your people. How do we do that? So that's front and center in terms of how we move forward and are moving forward in terms of delivery, safety, on the OPEX side and the CAPEX side. And then finally, I think which circles back in terms of the points you've raised is we are a customer-funded oriented business in it. So the mentality of walking in the customer's shoes needs to be at the forefront in the decisions we make, when we make them and why we make them, to understand that better and the experience better. I think that some of the goals that Richard set out in terms of customer satisfaction is also bringing that to the forefront, which is helping us move forward as a business. So, and then finally, leadership in encompassing all of those in a consistent, transparent manner is absolutely imperative and important and crucial. And with that, I'll hand over to Herbie Lambert as an example of a true leader with vast amount of experience to talk about service delivery and the particular points you mentioned in terms of connections. Thank you.
Thank you, and, you know, it's a pleasure to be here again, all of you. And a little bit about myself. I came from a law enforcement family, but my grandfather on my father's side was the first African-American dining car chef on the Pennsylvania Railroad. So railroading has always been in my blood. And, you know, when I came to transit back in 1981 as a conductor, everybody said, well, why did you go into law enforcement? I said, it was something about those grandfather meals and, you know, just understanding railroading and the porters, the Pullman porters, and the sacrifices that they went through. I thought it was just very interesting. So,
We on the Broadway Limited?
no, I wasn't. Some of the Metro liners, when they first came out, we used to get my father had a pass to ride that.
I
But,
thought when you said Pennsylvania Railroad, dining cars.
yeah, no, and so we did ride a couple of times, and we had the fortunate pleasure of, you know, meeting my grandfather on board, and, you know, we got to get a few free meals, but it was just interesting in that, you know, I come from a family of customer service. When you think about law enforcement or transportation, it's really about people. And I think, as Mandeep alluded to, it's your assets, it's your employees and your customers. And if you don't pay attention to that, then I think you're in the wrong business. So, started here in 1981 as a conductor, was a train operator, I was an assistant train dispatcher, yard dispatcher. I worked my way up through the supervisory and managerial ranks, and I retired in 2015. I was the chief transportation officer for RTO at the time. So I, you know, again, I've come through various titles, so you get to understand, again, walking in the customer's shoes, you ride the trains every day, and you just understand those connections, when they're missed, those announcements, when the signs are not proper, that means a lot, especially for some of our people today. And when you talk to some of your train crews, if a person comes up to you and says, "What train is this?" Well, it says A, but then the person you talk to may be things differently, so you have to always remember someone, the reason why they're coming up to you and asking you is because they may not know. One of the things I just learned today is that...
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but a train sign may have the incorrect destination on it, as I report to Demetrius on an endless basis.
Those, yeah. No, we see those, and that's something,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a complicated and
Yeah.
complex enough system as it is, so for visitors and New Yorkers, we gotta have at least the right signs and announcements.
No, it's important because our riders depend on, they wanna get from point A to point B, so one of the things I just learned today was that, so we have people who speak many different languages, they're coming to different offices and using translate. You talk about technology, so whatever language you speak, you're able to now say, can you direct me to the Office of Social Security? The person speaks into the app.
That's cool.
And then it's translated into the language that they speak. So when you think about how far we've come, so just to kind of circle back to why we're here, why it's important that, we understand the needs of our customers. We're all customers on board every single day, and we've got to make sure that our crews, our train operators and conductors and everybody, they understand that. And you want to be treated, like if you go to a restaurant, they want to be treated the same way. So I retired in 2015. I retired for 7 years, and then I came back to work. So, people will say, well, why'd you come back to work? Well, I miss transit. Transit's a wonderful place, and, you just get to see the new technology. Yes. So, again, it's great to be, working with Mandeep and, the entire subway team. So, with that said, we can go right into, what we're gonna talk about. So, a little bit about service delivery operations. One of our largest assets, as I said earlier, is our employees. So we have 7,500 employees, and that's a huge business run. And I think, as we said earlier, it's our process and our procedures and how we govern, and it's really important. So you can just see from the screen we have 33,000 train operators, 2,900 conductors, tower operators and dispatchers, and train service supervisors, and managerial titles. So these are the people that make up service delivery, and we're here to, make sure that the product is delivered safely, in a reliable way, and in the most efficient way.
What does PTME stand for?
Clerical, professional and technical analyst title.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah,
the
so-
E?
And I think the E is engineering, so we used to have some titles, PT and E. I don't think we have many of those now, but we used to have an abundance of those titles, so got a few left in our... So, the policy on making connections between trains, so Subway's policy on holding train doors open, so between the hours of 0600 and 0900 and 1600, 4 p.m. and 9 p.m., that's what we call our golden peak, our rush hour times, AM and PM peak. And during that time, it's not necessary for the conductor to make the connection due to the frequency of service. 7 p.m., right, 1900 hours at 7 p.m. Right.
Yeah.
So,
3 hours each one.
right, so
Yeah.
because of the frequency of service, the conductor is not required to make that connection. But now, sometimes you may find, this morning I came down on the A train, and there was a C train that pulled in at 126, and the conductor did make the connection, but the requirement is that they're not required to. However, during the non-commission hours, outside of those hours that we talked about, they must hold the doors open to make that connection.
Since you're here because of me, no, I want to stop you for a reason.
Sure, okay.
If it happened once or twice, maybe it's to say, Trudy's coming, let's screw this up again. And she'll, whatever. But I tell you, it happens There are rare occasions when it does not happen at Grand Central especially. It sometimes happens at 14th Street. But, and as I told you, it happened to me
In the
today.
downtown direction you're referring to,
No,
right?
in the downtown direction, sometimes it happens in the uptown direction also. If I pull in, though, not as much, because I am not switching to the express. My stop is 77th Street. But downtown, it is constant.
We have a very important question to ask you. I don't know if you hang around to find out, but when you just miss that one that closes its doors, do you measure how long it is to the next one?
Yes, today it was no, I'm sorry, no, today it was 4 minutes. Yesterday, because I had to go someplace, not down to here, but where I had to switch, and it was 7 minutes. I always try to measure, because a lot of times I call you and I say, I've been waiting, I'll call Andrew when this happens. I now just call Andrew almost automatically. And I'm just telling you that it happens, and, for you.
Trudy, I would like them to speak.
Oh, okay.
Further on.
But anyway, I'm just telling you, if it was once or twice, fine, constantly.
Please go on.
Yeah, no, but your feedback is important and, you know, gonna definitely
It's
take
one
note of it,
feedback.
yeah.
That's what, I had no problems.
Okay,
I mean,
so, but so just, you know, the point is that outside of the non-commissioned hours, the conductors are required to make the with the train and to do it safely, to make sure that we're not hitting anybody in the doors, et cetera, so,
If a train is running very late from its normal schedule, and there is another one shortly behind it, does that alter?
that could play a role, you know, and that's where conductors have schedule cards and they know that they're supposed to be at Grand Central on the 4, 5, and 6 at a particular time. They know that the conductor's in charge of the train, they're charged with making sure that the train is operating per schedule. But to your point, Andrew, if the train is running late, then they may not make a connection because of the train directly behind it, but then.
Are they aware of how close the following
Well,
train is?
so we have we have gap stations where Grand Central, we have 59th Street, Columbus Circle, where there's a supervisor, and they're able to regulate, they can see, and they may put what we call, sometimes you see in the station, have holding lights.
Oh, yeah.
So they'll put those lights on, and that will alert the
Yellow
conductor
or
to keep your doors, yes, they will alert the conductor to keep the doors open to make the connection. But that's a good point too, that if the train is late, then they may not make the connection because there's one directly behind.
Technically, if it's late, there shouldn't be that long a wait for the one following it, so.
It's true, and that's where our gas station supervisors are charged.
And you have one of those at J Street Metrotech.
Yeah, so J Street, Metrotech, those are the gap points where the supervisor, there's also a tower operator there, and they can see that the trains are either late, sometimes the trains are running early, we call it hot sometimes, and they will put those lights on and hold the train to time. So
Stuart's been waiting with
Oh,
us.
yeah,
Just
sure.
a very quick question.
Sure.
So, your example discussing was, let's say, the Lexington, the 456. So it's a series of trains serving one type of a trunk line, let's say Lexington Avenue. But these rules you're talking about, so let's say it's West 4th Street and it's different lines, you know, there are different frequencies between the F train and the trains that run on the express track, let's say. So these are the same rules for lines that may run to different
Yes,
destinations
yes,
in separate
yes.
trunks.
Correct, yes.
So then it's the sub-question that, so do they have a way of knowing what's going on with trains that are going on to other lines?
Well, so, let me make sure I'm just.
Meaning if there's a delay on,
Yeah, so through
the
the
D
rail
or-
control center,
Yeah.
if there's a particular delay on a card or across several lines,
right,
the RCC, or the Operations Control Center, will alert the train crew that there is a delay and what the alternate travel plans are. And our gap station supervisors at various locations, J Metrotech, Columbus Circle, will be able to make those announcements and the necessary service adjustments. Is that it? Did that answer your?
so they do have, so they are hearing, according to what you're saying, that there is some other trouble, let's say.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and they're getting that via radio?
Getting it via radio. We also have other computerized systems such as iTrack and different things internally that let each gas station and each terminal know that the railroad's either running normally or there's a delay, there's a delay, and what that delay is, and then that's when everybody kicks in and they go into action and they adjust service as needed.
But the conductors aboard two adjoining 6 local trains, for instance, don't know where the other one is.
No, they don't have that capability. They don't have that.
Aaron?
I don't know, are you people who deal with the people in the booth attendants? Not, okay,
That falls
not
on
a
the
pertinent
station.
question.
They're part of subways, but they fall under,
What?
they're part of subways, fall under stations.
Yeah,
They were
falls
last-
under stations, Sharon.
I can't hear you.
That falls under the stations.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Andrew?
Why don't you be the last question, Chris, and then let's,
Oh, no,
let them go on with their presentation.
I was gonna ask, after the presentation, I have a question.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to do.
Good, thank you.
We'll wait for the, please go on.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I think overall, I think we've pretty much explained the whole, there is a process, there is a policy on connections. And, I would really like to delve into why some of our conductors that, you know, you're experiencing those types of situations, maybe some of you who are experiencing those same things, we need to really understand why that behavior is happening and get to the root cause and change that behavior. So that's something that's, feedback is important. So the next slide just pretty much talks to, you know, scheduling considerations. So our operations planning department, you all are familiar with operations planning, they create the schedules upon which our trains operate. And our crews have schedule cards, which I alluded to earlier. So the conductor being in charge of the train is able to, knows what time to do at Grand Central, et cetera. So again, time connections are provided at the key locations, DeKalb Avenue, 59 Columbus Circle, as you alluded to, West 4th Street. Those are our key points. We have multiple trains that pass through. And again, with the idea that connections will be made, now especially on overnights and weekends, when you know the headways are 20 minutes, and if you miss that one connection, you're gonna wait 40 minutes for a train, and that's really that should not be happening. So, again, it's really the conductor, and again, just going back to that gas station, supervisor, the tower operators will put the holding lights on. Just remind the conductor, hey, there's a train coming in, remember to make that connection. So, that's really the highlight of, you know, what we, you know, I think it answers your questions in terms of there is a policy, the conductor's in charge of the train, and on our shuttle lines, we have the shuttle train operators required to, you know, policies as well.
Chris was supposed to be the first one
He
after
said
this.
he was.
We can let her go
He's
ahead.
deferring to you?
He's deferring.
Let her
to
go,
me.
then I'll go after.
Okay.
Okay. 2 questions from what you brought up. First of all, since you want, where is this, that Grand Central is a gas station?
It's an intermediate point.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Okay,
Where
yeah.
would this supervisor, this person be located?
So at Grand Central on the 4, 5, and 6, that's located.
Downtown.
Yeah,
Downtown
it's all 4 tracks. That person is now located at the Operations Control Center, which is at West 54th Street, centralized.
Oh, so that person isn't physically at the station?
No, that person isn't. So there is a tower operator, there is a supervisor at Grand Central, but they're,
Oh, that I
yeah.
that I know.
But to your question, the Operations Control Center in the A division are the numbered lines. We have what we call
Yeah.
automatic train supervision. So it's managed right from Central. You've been there, Al.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I think we've, or many of us have
Yeah.
been. Well, then, would it help when this happens? I try to get a number on this train that's pulling out, but frankly, it goes so fast, you know, they shut the door, zoom. Would it help in identifying who these whose conductors who aren't following the rules are, if I was able to get the car number that I go in on the next train that comes in, and then you can trace back what was the train before that? I mean, there is some way that these conductors who aren't following your rules, which makes absolute sense, should be held accountable.
Yeah, I think that's possible, that is possible, so it would, ideally, if you had the exact car number, but,
Yeah.
that
But
would
it's
help.
very
The person
difficult,
that you're
because it's-
describing at 54th Street, can they see on a screen the location of every train?
Yes.
So they will know how close the next one is.
Right, and we have it's service regulators, so they're responsible for making sure that service.
And if I had the time that they shut the door in my face, not just I'm not taking it personally, a lot of people have to, but that they shut the door, but I knew the exact time that happened, they'd be able to trace it back to who was the conductor on it.
Yeah, we could pinpoint, in the,
Yeah.
on the IRT with the automatic train supervision, with the technology, we could.
Okay, then I'm gonna
Okay.
start taking notes.
Chris?
Let's talk about one connection that has been concerning, that I don't see the conductors looking on their heads outside where there's two trains. A walker and a motorized wheelchair. If you see them crossing, they're ready to close the door and almost hit one of them. It could be in any of the stations, Columbus Circle, Kings Highway on the B&Q sometimes.
And it happens at Grand Central.
I'm just gonna say Grand Central, but I'll take Trudy's word. Thank you, Trudy. Second my motion. Also, some of them, I understand there's a timetable, but at the same time, they need to think of safety. Person cannot expect to fly in onto a train because some stations' edges or the hump is not level, because sometimes it sinks or it's already not been fixed yet. Need to please remind them, because this is not just one section line. It is almost all your lines. As Trudy mentioned, Grand Central, there are times at Times Square on the 1, 2, and 3 on both directions. I know Andrew's gonna say what side, I already said both sides, but they need, I understand there's homing lights, and there are times I actually see one time the conductor didn't even close the door when the homing lights was up, and they looked at him like, what are you racing for? So we do need to remind them to put your head out, and you see a person trying to come on, a walker may have trouble getting on because you're dealing with older equipment against new equipment. So there is some issues and concerns, and I'm glad West 4th Street, Marcy has the temporary accessibility, pilot going on. And thank God the R211A is even on the newer trains, but they still need to understand, yes, they know they may be late, but they also gotta think of safety, and it has not been worked on. It needs to be worked on, very much.
So, I'm gonna call on you.
Okay.
Is there a frequency with which conductors are sent rules and regulations and reminders about meeting connections if it's,
Right,
not rush hour and?
So we have what we call bulletins, that's a supplement to our rule book.
Yeah.
So we periodically review and reissue bulletins specifically with connections and customer safety and door holding, those are reviewed. We also have our train service supervisors who are out, and they're also doing observations of our employees as well. And they do make corrections when they observe, things like that. When we get customer complaints, it's feedback, that someone's behavior was not correct. We do a thorough investigation, and then what we do as well is we have a supervisor go do discrete follow-ups, just to make sure that, we take,
No, they just, I've
we
seen.
take it very seriously, customer safety, customer feedback, and then we will go do what we call a follow-up, and in cases where the conductor is found to be, violation, then proper, discipline is taken.
That follow-up is done in plain clothes?
Well, our supervisors, they will stand, at the end of the platform, maybe behind the
okay.
pole.
The train, a few train cars
Yeah,
behind you.
yeah.
I'm a former conductor, so I can,
Okay.
I can confirm everything you're saying.
And I
If
agree
you
with, I
are
agree with Jessica too, yeah.
suspicious, they may not ride with you,
No, you
they
didn't.
may ride later in the train, they
I
check
seen
your
it.
dwell time, how long your doors are open, they make sure you're pointing to that board, you're doing your sleep.
You wave through when you go past them?
Well, sometimes they're on the train, well, sometimes they hide it behind the column to make sure, but.
We wave to the right, so you.
Wave to them, to let them know that I know you're there.
God, this is what I do.
Go ahead,
So
Lisa.
I actually had a question and then a comment in the chat. I'm wondering if the platform controllers, you know, with the flashlights who say all clear and stuff, if they have, what their role is in sending a train on as opposed to holding a train if something's coming.
So platform controllers, where we have them in some locations, not every location, but they're there to assist with the swell, to making sure that they will use the flashlight and wave it up and down, this way to say to the conductor, keep the doors open, and then when it's clear, then they will give it the up and down that it's okay to close down. So their primary function is customer service, but also to just assist with dwells and making sure that the customers are boarding.
Doors are closed, can they be reopened if a train comes in?
No, that's not a good,
Right.
that's not a good thing, because now that impacts the headways and the dwells,
Right.
so that makes the train later.
Yeah, that makes it late.
I mean, if a customer's stuck in the doorway,
Yeah,
of course,
no.
the conductor is required to
Yeah.
reopen,
Which
but,
it's been happening.
yeah, but,
Well, that,
but to your question, if the conductor is safely able to close down, it's not a good idea for them to
No, right.
reopen, just to, yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
The comment from Jason is Atlantic Avenue, Barclay Center on the DNR platform toward Manhattan, I often see trains being held for 2 to 4 minutes for a connection. So that's
That's a good
that's
thing.
being
I
appreciative.
appreciate that
Yes.
feedback, thank you so much.
And just to add that, I had that issue too, because my mother had that issue too, with that issue, because when the D train when an N train came in, and the R train had the holding lights, he closed the door with the holding lights still on. And I know they yelled at him because they said, "You was on holding lights, where are you going?" So it's like, there's a issue between Barclay and 36th Street.
the other question, and this again happened today, so is that when the second train comes, well, it seems to happen even when the connection is made or it's during rush hour or whatever. Is there some work going on the 4 or 5, the express tracks, on the east side that would cause the trains to run slow? Maybe it's just in my head because I've been waiting so long, and then I say, oh, this isn't going fast enough. But to go slower past Grand Central,
Between 42nd and
between 42nd and 14th, yeah. Is there work or something? And if there is, maybe an announcement could be made on over the loudspeaker, or even a recorded announcement saying the passengers, because in my car today, somebody's saying, using language that shouldn't be used, but why the blankety blank is this train going so slow, it's supposed to be express, you know, and shouting it out, you know. So it happened to, but it seems to happen all the time. As I said, I'm not sure if it's in my head or it's actually happening between Grand Central and 14th, after I have to wait on the platform for so long because the doors
Are there
are shut in
slow
my
orders
face.
on that stretch?
As far, so there are no, so I mean, just the speed, the civil speed of the signal system is, you know, kind of slow, but not very
Yeah, but
slow,
that's usually a pretty fast run.
No, but
No,
that's
that's
usually,
always
that's usually a,
I'm slow on that every day.
But there could have been an incident that's going on.
well, Lisa says it happens to her every day.
Every morning, every day. It's especially at 33rd.
I mean, there are time signals in the area that the train has to, you know, abide by.
No, it's
the-
okay,
yeah.
but maybe some kind of an announcement could be made. I understand that there's work, I understand that there are situations,
No, I don't-
something happens.
You don't wanna call attention to it.
But there,
But it's called attention by the people who are
but if there's a
experiencing it.
delay, let me
It
just.
could be traffic, it could
Yeah,
be train
if
traffic.
there's a delay ahead caused by an earlier incident, the train crew is required to let the customer know that there's a delay. And,
Well,
Yeah.
no, sometimes that happens, which is wonderful, you know, they'll say, they never say what it is, they'll just say we're delayed because of trouble ahead or a situation.
Okay, we gotta move. Stuart, did you have?
Yeah, I did. So just very quickly, you mentioned before you get, customer feedback or through complaints. So have you looked at the data and are there any patterns that are apparent you know, this issue that we're talking about today? Is there any particular line or lines that jump out with complaints? Or is it or is it across this, or, right, or is it across?
No, the right answer is repeat
Well, I would say we look at the customer feedback and,
Yeah.
we look at it, but I'm sure, but based upon the data that we do get, we could probably take a look at it and see if it's a repeat line or, how frequent it is it during the day, is it during the evening, during the weekend?
No, I'm hearing a lot of Lexington, Avenue line issues here.
That is far from
Forum.
family line.
Right, and I'm curious to see if you hear other things. I think the group would be interested in. Because again, as you mentioned, if the conductors do have the schedule cards, it's for their lines, not for other lines, so I don't know how helpful they could really be. And last,
look at patterns.
right, and last sub-question, so the station announcements that sometimes, I'll use that word, sometimes accompany corruption, where are they getting that information from? Is it locally or from the center,
So,
or both?
station announcements can be local.
Mhm.
It could be coming from 59th Street Master Tower, where there's a dedicated announcer, or they could be coming from the Operations Control Center at West.
It's still both.
Correct,
Okay.
and the main information will come from the Operations Control Center, because they have the bigger picture, and they will provide feedback or information to the local tower where there is an announcer or a dispatch or a tower operator to make the announcement that there's a delay, or what the alternatives are.
Right, and the conductor then, how is that individual then getting that information?
Via the radio,
By the radio?
yes, they
Okay.
have a radio.
No, that's something maybe to look at, because I've seen a disconnect that they're
You
get
station announcements?
getting.
Yeah, like, I agree with
Scott's on Staten
Staten Island, we just peered down the track for 45 minutes, whatever the train is.
Then you get hit.
You have apps, you don't have to do that
You
anymore.
can't get hit, the train's not coming, you can't get hit.
Scott,
No, he's right. Oh, he's right.
No,
The app's not updating stuff.
Mr. X?
Thank you.
I'll say Staten Island. It is about the child. One is Nicholas. Also to that express stop. Obviously, up like the Jefferson.
Going on to the east.
No reason why you can't make those. That's why the right way. You want this by the right, or you want somebody. That's what I know.
I don't think that's the issue here, Mr. X. I think these folks are doing the right thing and putting out the right procedures to the conductors, and there may be extenuating circumstances that we don't know about, or a conductor who just wants to keep moving and maybe he'll get to his break quicker, or who knows what, or his on-time performance will show better. But,
Or her.
and the connections, I mean, I've seen people, cursing when they just miss one, especially on a weekend when, the headways might be 17 to 20 minutes on some lines, especially if there's a GO going on. So that's not good PR for the MTA either. So if we can make these connections, we should make sure that the employees know that's what you should do.
Andrew?
Obviously, we don't know about extenuating circumstances which could happen. People could hold doors. The other train could have an issue. We just, it was that boring.
No, I think the chair's too comfortable.
Oh, okay.
Andrew,
But I think these folks know what needs to be done, and it just has to be done out there on the road.
Don't take that personally.
Oh, no.
Andrew?
Don't take it personal.
Andrew?
Yes.
There is one more I forgot to mention. It's the R train. Understand the issue in Queens. I'm not worried about Queens here, because we know Queens Boulevard, it can happen. But if you look at the clock downstairs, after I leave from here, let's say the next train said it'll be here in 2 minutes, but the following one doesn't come for 25 minutes. Then you'll see a W, another W. But, and I did put this in, Andrew, 100 times already. On the complaint, and I did mention this, there has been, if you know that there is, and I know it's, if you have to wait that long for an R train, there is no announcement.
You talking about Brooklyn bound or uptown bound?
Both directions, doesn't make a difference which way I'm saying it. I'm talking just downstairs.
Downstairs, you have a pretty long wait for a W going to Brooklyn. There's only a few of them.
Yeah, well, I'm not worried about that, because they're all terminated at Whitehall. But there was one other time I was here, there was an R train coming 1 minute, and his following leader is 4 minutes. And I'm looking like, don't you think the second one should maybe wait to give the other one a little space? Because one was overcrowded, the second one is ready to leave already, and it's like, the second one's walking, and I'm like,
I wouldn't complain about too frequent
No.
service,
Too
Chris.
frequent, but you
No.
know what, Chris?
Yeah,
They'll hold it at J Street in Brooklyn and let the other one go up
they
ahead a
didn't,
little.
they
Oh.
didn't.
You were on it?
I was on it, and they
Oh.
left, and let me say this, I don't, and even at Whitehall, sometimes they do hold it once, but they didn't do it, so I'm like, 'cause the next, his following leader behind him is not for 16 minutes, they should give a little space, so at least they do it, but there are times,
Remember the third train back there too?
yeah, you're right, no, you're right, Scott, he's right, but at the same time, also, I understand you're holding them sometimes too much, and then we gotta run express to just catch up, which,
There are some apps
Yeah.
which will show you how far away succeeding trains are.
yeah,
I have several of them,
I've
and,
been on some of the
I
apps,
watch
because I'm
them,
on the,
and,
as,
by the way, there's also some trains who are, and some buses, but mostly trains that aren't sending out the signal, like they will appear, and they weren't on the app, which is
Yes.
interesting, so.
it's on the queue line.
Yeah, I report those when I see them, but,
It's on the,
it's
it's on the,
important.
it's on,
Communication
it's on
is
the
very
Q and B
important.
line sometimes.
And, yes, please.
If Marisol or Cicely or anybody on the Zoom has any questions?
I don't. I've been listening and I know that they're doing the best they can. I know that there are times that connections cannot be made. Obviously, we're gonna ask that more effort be made so that people don't get stranded. But I appreciate that it's being looked into.
Thanks, Marisol.
Thank you.
There were no passengers. Just keep it as perfect.
Well, we had that, it was terrible.
We did have that at that point.
No, we don't want that.
We don't want
I never wanna go back that way again.
I'm sorry, I do have one quick question. I'm just wondering how that works out when you have shuttle buses that are providing service as opposed to a train. What is the connection with the buses that are being used when
other
there's
words-
construction?
Does the bus operator know exactly when the train is scheduled to leave the station?
No.
Right.
So that- Yeah, yeah.
No. They just go.
No, that's a real question though, I have to say. There's times that, well, because of construction, they're not able to make the connections because the buses are obviously above the system, but I'm wondering how that coordination is done.
So I live on the A line, and I know frequently there's a shutdown from 168th Street to 207th Street, so you just have the M4 is supplemented by the A shuttle from 168,
To 181st.
well, to 190th Street and for Washington Avenue. So the bus dispatcher they do have a sense of timing with the train, but we also now have a weekend czar, Jose LaSalle. And that's one of his, many tasks, is that he frequently, on the weekends, he and Pete Delgado are out riding. They have a strong interface and connection with the Department of Buses. And when it's possible, they will, particularly on elevated lines, so for example, East 180th Street is the last stop, and the shuttle buses to White Plains. you know, they will make that effort to your question, Marisol,
Mhm.
they will make the effort to coordinate that, with the train coming in, we won't let the bus leave until we see everyone has come down off that train, and then they'll let that shuttle bus go on, and then the next bus come in.
Well, Jose Lozal can't be at every station, so who makes the determination to hold the bus?
Well, I would say that's the bus dispatcher who's on site.
So there's no way that the train operator can be in touch with the bus?
No, we don't, but it's really the bus dispatcher, but we're getting there to make sure that
They do sometimes hold the queue, they do hold the buses if the queue pulls in, and the bus will not leave until the bus gets full, and then the next bus comes in, they fill that one, so they do hold it going the other way, but when it's going to the train, it's really hard to do that, 'cause
Can't
it
do that.
can't.
Anybody have any further questions for our speakers? Well, thank you so much.
Thank you really much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
We thank you for what you're doing.
I just have one question. Does anyone know how many trips we do a day?
I go almost every day on a train.
No.
That's what he's talking.
Train trip.
How many train trips we do a day?
15 to 20?
No, this is.
No, we're asking the total number of,
And you're.
Well, you're really
No.
taking this personally, aren't you?
so why don't you tell us?
Thank you.
How many thousand?
It's 8,000, over 8,200 trips a day.
Okay.
And,
Round trip.
and does anyone know how many cars we have on the road a day, roughly?
Yeah,
You've done your homework.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said, 8,000?
How many cars?
No, but there was 8,000 round trips?
Yeah, they're round
Total
trips.
trips, yeah. And cars.
Trains on the road
Yeah.
that we need for service.
Trains or cars?
Trains, I mean.
Oh,
yeah,
individual.
Either or.
In service or not, or?
Well,
Yeah,
there's a
like
difference between some,
7,000
you're talking
cars or
about
something,
each,
isn't it?
Over 6,000.
but that's
He
the
was
number, that's how many trains are there?
Cars.
Cars,
Yeah, but how many
cars.
trains are there?
Trains over 600.
Okay.
Depending on the length of line.
We're also counting R211s?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, whether you,
Yeah.
are you now
Service, so
counting?
of course we're counting.
Are you counting?
And the reason I mention those numbers is they're quite vast, as you probably appreciate. And there's always gonna be a deviation in the delta in terms of, how we get our communications to our staff to deal with incidents that happen. If you take on board, you reference COVID and how service was during that period.
There wasn't any.
Yeah, with passengers, but the service that did run was predictable. However, we deal with operation incidents starting from about 4:30 each morning in terms of, if it's not the weather, it's unfortunate people that are unruly, let's say, on the system. People who get ill, on the trains. All these unforeseen issues, the RCC deal with in a really agile, dynamic manner.
But I don't think we're talking about the exceptions, I think we're talking about things that seem to happen
Yeah. I'm just
often on the line.
I'm giving the context in terms of the complexity of the operation in its in totality.
I have a question, so if you're, 8,000 round trips a day, right? How many incidents a day would you say, halt progress?
Halt progress?
Yeah, like how many, if there are 8,000 round trips a day, how many of those are impacted by,
Problem.
like unruly passengers, or there's a problem with the track, or
Someone got sick?
something got fixed?
In theory, it could be none, or it could be every single incident. It depends upon the incident.
Right.
Every incident is tracked, so we can look at
Right.
what the incident is, whether it's unruly or whether it's rail or the signal.
But Lisa, that's why you see patterns on particular lines, that would be,
Correct.
whether it's holding or
And again, just,
some other
Every
phenomenon.
single trip has variables.
Absolutely.
People get
Yeah.
slow, fast,
and just,
whatever,
and
so
just,
it's hard to schedule.
it's a challenge, but a challenge that we're taking on board, and we do appreciate your feedback and your time taken to, we welcome that, and thank you
We'll
for that.
keep you posted as well as we can.
Thank you.
We'll keep on, keeping it, and I will personally,
No, he's right.
every time it happens, make note of the time, and if I can't get the number on the train that it happened, to the car on the train, when I get on, like today, I got on train, I know car 6192 was the one that finally took me down here, that I was able to make note of. So that we can know the train or that, or the train.
Thank you very much.
But
Thank
thank
you.
you so much,
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
for
Thank you.
taking your time.
Really appreciate it, I really appreciate you spending time with us.
Thank you very much. Let's move ahead on the agenda, because we have a lot to talk about. So I will get into the chair and board report now. You may have heard that wonderful is happening, and more will continue to happen as far as booth agents being out of the booth and onto the station. They are in the process of getting their iPhones, so they will have contacts, and they are in the process of getting training. In fact, one of the rooms being used for training booth agents at yesterday's board meeting, somewhere else on the, and then some booth agents actually came and greeted people at
But they're not
the,
called booth agents anymore, are they?
customer service agents.
Yes,
That's
yes.
what they're being made.
Yeah.
But I'm referring to them because, people have said to me, I still see them in the booth, it's still training, the amount of time they're out of the booth is subject to where you are and how much training that particular agent has received.
Yeah.
Sharon, do you have something to say?
No, I mean, this
Oh.
morning, I'm here every morning, and I work on my cell phone, which he tried to hide, and then I said, I understood you were supposed to be monitoring. Well, he said, we're in sometime, if you need us, come and get us.
Let you know where he is.
Yeah, they are going to be out more and more, as the months progress. After they've all gotten training, they've all gotten their instructions. They're supposed to be eyes on the platform. They're supposed to help with passengers, with directions, report things that they see in the station to the, station agent to the, group station manager that's in charge of their station, and get things accomplished. We will be monitoring that, obviously, because I too have seen them largely in the booth still.
Yeah.
But the change is supposedly happening. Ridership continues to be really great. It is better than the, McKinsey midpoint estimate, which means the budget is a little better than everybody expected it would be, which is great news. Obviously, we're waiting for the really great news from Albany, which we'll get into in a little bit, but we hit a post-pandemic record of 4 million subway riders last Thursday, a week ago today, which was like unheard of, and which is surpassing even other systems in the U.S. for percentage of ridership compared to pre-COVID. So, obviously, New Yorkers are out, they're riding. There was a speaker, and I won't name names, but there was a speaker who is supposedly an advocate, that you shouldn't ride, it's not safe, at the board meeting yesterday, and to me, that's not being an advocate for riders. You get more good, honest, wonderful people on the trains, you will do a lot to stem the people that are causing mayhem. So we want to see more riders, and the more the better, for a whole host of reasons. And, so that's.
As long as you get their fix.
Yes, of course, that's very important. I have told any number of people, including the chief financial officer, that I cannot take a ride without seeing multiple incidents of fare evasion.
Oh.
It's really bad. I know we're going to be eventually getting new entries, new gates, new all of that. But, as I keep saying, the IG estimated the 2022 loss at $550 million, and that's a lot of service that can be provided. So hopefully we're moving in the right direction on ridership. There is an update on Omni that I wanted to give you. MTA's construction and development is now going to be in charge of the Omni project. It is going to be considered a major construction project, even though it's not all construction, it's largely electronic and signal-based and communications-based, especially
Is
when.
it under Jamie then?
Yes, especially when, it gets to the commuter rails, which is going to cause it to be delayed somewhat. It is quite problematic to get it to work on Long Island Metro North, but it will happen. The life of MetroCard has been extended. We thought they would be gone in '24. They will still be around until '25, it is likely. Maybe even later, depending. The chair has said he would like to see Omni available to everybody and really used in all neighborhoods, on all lines, before they move to actually remove MetroCard. MetroCard has its problems. We're paying people to clean the turnstiles. I have frequently felt resistance when I tried to swipe, and that means that turnstile is not clean. And that can damage cards, whereas with the tap, you can contactless, it's wonderful. It's faster, especially on a bus, where the bus takes four seconds to digest your MetroCard and then spit it back out to you. So, we want Omni to succeed. Machines will start to be put in stations this summer and through the fall, obviously. So you'll be able to buy a card there. They had they had an actual machine sitting in the MTA board meeting room yesterday. It's big, it's massive. There's a lot of parts to it, so having the customer service agents out of the booths and instructing folks how to use these things will be very important to the spread of Omni, because it is complicated. There are so many slots where you can put your card, well, almost like the pass things, where you can put your card in, add value to it, either with cash or with a credit card or debit card. All of those things are on the Omni machines, and it will require one lesson, but once you've done it, you'll be able to do it easily, I am sure.
Andrew, have they done anything, with something I brought up and then somebody else brought up about the Omni cards that now are on sale in various outlets, especially in
Drugstores,
and
yeah.
drugstores, that to let people know that is the cost of the card and not there. Have they changed the signage? Because I haven't seen it.
I have not seen any change. It's still $5
Has
to buy
that,
one
no,
of those
no, but
cards.
has that been recommended, that they said that is the cost of the card, but that
It
is
says
not
it on the packaging.
It's clear that you haven't bought any rides, you've just bought the
Well,
card.
they may want to put a bigger sign, because I know people are still complaining.
The retailer.
Walgreens, just to add, Walgreens did add larger print, because I've been at some Walgreens, and and I have to say that some people have been getting the card, and they have been actually saying, I will pay the $5 just to get an activation and put the cash I want, because if I'm getting a 7-year, card, I'm really pleased to have it.
Yeah, well, I think,
But no, when people know that they have
Agreed.
it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, well, not a lot, but and some of the cash register people have told me that they get, well, whatever they get, not pleasant things from people who buy it and then come back and complain because they couldn't use it or whatever it is. So we might want to suggest to Jamie or whoever is now doing this, that as they,
Amy
before the
Linden is still in
machine,
charge, pretty much.
or Amy,
Yeah.
that they make up some signs at all the retail outlets, that anybody who is buying that card can see it, not looking on the packaging or anything else, so that they just know, that it's announced.
Bert?
I have a question. Is there any plans to get the Omni working on the back end of the bus?
Only the select.
There are plans for all-door boarding, absolutely.
In our lifetime, or?
Good one, Bert, I'm sorry.
Once
Well,
everything
right
is
now, you can
in
board,
place.
25.
right now, you can board on any of the rear doors on an SBS bus and
Yes.
tap. Right now,
Yes, I can vouch
just
that.
an SBS, so.
just an SBS. That was the only one that had the rear.
The B-44 Select, when I was at the junction at the pop-ups, they did have all the access on all the doors.
The SBS, yeah.
It wasn't just that bus, Chris, it was
It's
all
all the
SBS.
I said all SBS, but I'm using an example. I saw it on the B-44
Right,
Select.
but so that's been, what,
So you don't
We
have
should
to,
not-
you don't have to buy a,
correct, if you wanna tap.
People using their smart devices to do that.
you don't have to buy the,
On the cards, you can either load the cards at the store you bought it, which is a real pain, which is why getting the machines in the stations is gonna be a real boon to the spread of Omni.
Or you can do
Because
it
you'll be able
online,
to just use them.
Yeah.
you can also do it online.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Once you
people don't always
establish
wanna do it
an account.
online because
Yep.
they wanna use cash.
Well, let me just go on to say,
Can I just wanna respond to Bert? So one of the reasons they haven't done it for all rear door boarding, not everybody has access to Omni yet. But not everybody has, not all the half-fare cards,
Correct.
not
I don't think
everybody,
any of the half-fare cards.
Only the phone app.
not
has it.
everybody has half-fare, access yet.
Yeah.
Not,
Only the
and it's not available to everybody. So once it's more broadly, in use, and students don't have it,
Fair Fares doesn't have it yet.
Fair
so-
Fares doesn't have it.
The
Andrew,
reducer only has it on the phone app, only,
Yeah.
not the cards yet.
One other sub-question, so has the authority shared any data about, are using phones or cards, not necessarily the Omni card? Meaning they're using the Omni system, but have
Oh,
they shared data as to what's the most,
It's smart devices,
popular
absolutely.
smart devices?
Right
Okay,
now, yes.
right,
Because the cards, not everybody knows they're available at all these retail outlets.
Right.
The machines aren't in the stations yet, so absolutely, it's the smart devices right now.
okay. Thank you.
And, that day that we had 4 million subway riders, 1 point some odd million of them came in with Omni.
Thank you.
So that's pretty good. Yes.
How far are we with?
That's definitely in the works. We got an update on that yesterday.
Mhm.
They hope that that will be later this year. You'll see that everywhere. Now, that's very important. Yes. And,
New machines being
I'll try
put
that.
in and
I'll try.
everything.
don't know the answer to that one.
Working on that also.
Excuse me, are you talking about, that's Fair? That's what's discussed at the
Fair
board.
Fares is definitely coming to
Yeah.
Omni, but those cards, I'm not 100%
Yeah,
sure.
maybe 12, because, HRA keeps, instead of, universal fair,
That's Fair.
I can't imagine that they won't be doing that because they want it to be the method of payment.
Correct.
And I will also add, that it will be incorporated into the JFK Air Train.
By Thanksgiving.
Yes,
Hold your breath to that.
yes.
Oh, which year?
Thank you.
And, are you ready for
Year
this?
36.
And it will be on the, Roosevelt Island tram as well.
That's an easy one.
Half, not necessarily.
finish the
Port
agreement?
Authority has not agreed to it yet,
Oh.
even though their turnstiles are made by the company that makes Omni, Cubic.
Yeah.
So I assume that they eventually will, because clearly Hoboken, Jersey City, Harrison, and Newark are in the New York metro area, and so one metro New York, it makes sense. So let's move on. The budget update, they're obviously, hopefully, much closer than further. Trudy is shaking her head, not necessarily. Obviously, it has gone as late as June till we got a budget. Hopefully, we won't do that.
No, in the past years, it's gone to the end of July, and in one case in August. But I'll bring you, when
Okay.
you're ready for me to bring it
Okay.
up to date.
All right, I just wanted to add that one of the things that the bills that will hopefully make the MTA whole for the, not just for this year, but for the foreseeable future, require the MTA to do some efficiencies, $400 million worth of efficiencies.
Mhm.
And we got a little taste of what some of those efficiencies will be at yesterday's meeting. They are going to use technology to save money. For instance, in the case of tracks, there are sensors they can install which will tell them in advance when something is going to break down or bust. They can make the repairs prior to having to do a major capital job on a section of track and thus save themselves money. Many of the bus collisions that have taken place were their extensive long mirrors hitting other buses and occasionally other vehicles. They are experimenting with e-mirrors now, which not only give the bus operator a much better viewpoint, much fewer blind spots, but they don't protrude, so they won't be hitting other bus vehicles. So they will be using technology in a variety of ways. They can see when elevated structures will need repairs long before something breaks down and you have to take something out of service. So, like they said in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, technology is our friend. And they're going to be, using technology to save money, and this sounds like really great stuff. They know what they're doing. Jamie is wonderful, and his people are wonderful, and Rich Davey is very sensitive to having things fall apart, which is why he's doing the station renovations. Grand Street is supposedly done and ready to be looked at. It sounds wonderful. Atlantic Barclays on the B and Q
Yeah, I was there
has
today.
recently been done, and I've seen it. It looks pretty darn good. And obviously, you know, they've been doing all kinds of geos on the concourse line, which is why D trains don't go north of 161st Street on so many different weekends while they finish up the work on the D line. So this is great stuff. His hand was up, I saw.
No, but I do have a question.
Okay, and then I'm gonna let Trudy give you a little further update on the budget because she's much closer to
Andrew,
that.
instead of using just an old business, since you brought up Atlantic Barclay, Seventh Avenue, you know, all that, I'm glad they fixed Barclay Center, but Seventh Avenue, I
brought that up, and
Yeah.
as you know, there have been weekend geos at Seventh Avenue, which was a perfect opportunity for them to
They
do the
didn't do
work. And I mentioned it to Demetrius and others, and it hasn't happened yet, right?
It has not.
He's not in charge of that program.
No, he's not, but he was gonna tell somebody, because he knew about the geo, he was gonna tell them that this needs to be done while I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But it did not happen yet.
Exactly, and right now, as I went past there, and I did take some pictures when I, last TRC meeting, I can tell you that it's, the southbound side, going Coney Island bound, is definitely, cracking. It's ready to come apart, anytime, any
On
moment.
the platform,
Yes, edge as well.
platform edge.
Platform edge, I know they're putting temporary wooding, but that doesn't solve anything. You're adding more weight to it.
I will personally communicate with the head of stations and ask them, on any subsequent geos that they take care of these issues.
And
And-
if you and I wanna go there with
I
someone.
cannot imagine they haven't inspected it already on all the various, and the group station manager must have told them, but we will follow up for sure.
If you and I, as well as anyone, wants to go there, and maybe we can, have them there, we can finally get this done, 'cause
Yeah, I may have to go there and take some photos and.
I have the photos, I can email you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure they are. Let's get a little further update on what's happening budget-wise, because that is so key to the future of everything. Trudy, you know some things.
Unfortunately, there was, and Lisa, I so much appreciate your optimism and saying, every time you give a report, oh, it's gonna happen right away. And that's why I didn't call you to say, don't be optimistic for a while. No, 'cause Lisa keeps on hoping, and the information that she gets are from other people who are also, but unfortunately, what has happened, one of the things that has happened is that this whole issue of free buses, which there is disagreement, not only, between any of you who heard Jano yesterday, he doesn't like it. Most MTA people don't like it because, and even if it were to happen, what is being proposed now is that, because originally it was going to be, I think it was the Bronx or Queens that there would be the first, and then it would go around. Now, since the other boroughs all complained, if it were to happen, and as I said, most people don't want it to happen, is that there would be 2 in each borough.
There'd be 10.
And there would be 1 on each borough's main route, quote unquote, and and 1 to have an underserved area in that borough. You can imagine all of the, discussions, shall we say, to use a nice term, that there would be, which is a main route, which is an underserved area, and in which borough and other underserved areas, whatever it is. So right now, as I said, it's under discussion, but there is so much negative discussion about it, and Jano has made it very clear that he doesn't think it's a great idea. those that are proposing it, saying it will get more riders on the system, and then it will get people who then take the buses to then ride the subway, so that'll be more riders. I don't understand that logic at all. A lot of people have also indicated they don't understand that logic at all. But that's the argument
I'd
that's
be
being...
afraid that people would think, well, I rode the bus for free, I guess I can ride the train for free too.
And then you'll have more absolutely, but, okay. The other thing is that one of the, unfortunately, the MTA budget, for us and everything, has now taken second place, or maybe even third place, to some of the other issues. First of all, the housing, the idea of housing in areas that they weren't, whatever, I'm not gonna go into all the details, that's now been taken out of the budget completely. So, and there are some people who say it shouldn't be taken out of the budget, so there's a sub-argument going on. Should it be out of the budget or shouldn't it be out of the budget? The same thing with bail reform. Should it be in the budget? Should it be out of the budget? How do you define bail reform, et cetera? So unfortunately, our part of the budget has now sort of been lost in that whole frenzy. The other thing is that Mayor Adams finally yesterday put out the city budget, because he said he couldn't wait anymore. And he is not including the $500 million that the governor requested to be in the state budget for us. So right now, he says he doesn't have that money, he's cutting back on everything, so he's not putting in any extra money.
I thought they agreed to a lesser amount now.
No, there are some people who are saying, there are this quote-unquote discussions going on again about a lesser amount.
Yeah.
But definitely, but I'm putting discussions in quotes, because one person will go on television and say, this is what's happening, another will go and say, this is what's happening, and...
But with the city money, they don't have to put it in their budget, because the state can just
No, I don't think the state can just take it out.
They can just take it out of their,
They can take it out of their allotment.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll get it one way or the other.
But, well, we really, and I don't want to go into the politics of the situation, but this is the first time that we have a governor and a mayor who are at least talking to each other occasionally, which was not the case before. Then another, area of, that was possibly money for the MTA was setting up this, local parking permits and having all of that money go to everything. Residential parking permits, it has been used in other cities, but there is such feedback, blowback, whatever you want to call it, from that, that it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And then the last thing, well, it's not the last thing, but I'm not going to bore you with all of the internecine warfare that's going on, but the last thing, and I'll say it again because a number of elected officials, both citywide and statewide, still are bringing up the idea of the casino, money from casinos. It cannot happen. Right now, the law that set up the casinos made it very clear that all proceeds from casinos, and we're talking about both the permit, to bid, to put in your, not bid, your plan for getting, for setting up a casino and everything, it cannot happen. There would have to be a new law dealing with the casinos and with the fact that some of the money could go to mass transit or whatever. Right now, the way the law is written is that it all goes to education. So anything else that you hear differently, anything else that you hear differently, okay?
Well,
And
in the budget that they drafted, there was change of language that would allow for the casino money to come.
Lisa, let me explain to you. They couldn't put that in the budget that they drafted. That's why it is no longer, the only thing that they might do is somewhere, like with a sub, with a subheading or something saying that it could be, but there would have to be new legislation negating or adding on to or
Yeah.
amending the,
We get it.
the casino education. Not, they can't undo the bill that's setting up casinos.
Okay, we got
So
it.
right now, basically, from what I've heard as late as last night, is that we're still gonna have a wait. And Andrew is being optimistic, or was it Bert, who said, you know, we've had budgets as late as July. There have been budgets as late as August or anything. God help us.
Hopefully not.
We cannot, you know, we can't wait. But the MTA is going to have to go ahead, because, I don't know when our budgetary year ends, or when we have to have the new, you know.
December, January.
So-
January 1.
So we are already,
And as a good segue to that, as you probably remember, I'm on the Fair Evaluation Task Force. There was a proposal for a 5.5% fare increase. It would have, of course, could have been obviated by what Albany does, but, the plan was to have had public hearing, if the budget was on time, public hearings in May and June, installation of a new fare if necessary. That is now obviously put off for obvious reasons. So, you'll have to stay tuned on that one. All
then how are we
meetings-
gonna pay the bills?
All meetings of the Fair Task Force have been suspended, pending the, final outcome of the state budget, because we won't know what to propose. Something small, moderate, you know. However, I will, in an optimistic tone, say that I have been pushing for a floating fare capping on Omni, which would not have to be Monday through Sunday, but the first day you start using, 6, 7 days from there, which is so much more sensible. Not everybody travels starting on a Monday anymore, clearly.
Really?
You could start any day.
Yeah, and they are pretty optimistically saying they are looking at that, and you could even opt for a monthly, depending on how you use fare cards. So I think, you know, getting people to realize that you can get the benefit of a weekly unlimited or a monthly unlimited without having to lay it out is just a reason by itself to switch to Omni, not to mention it's faster, easier. Yes, Scott?
Just to be clear about the education budget, the casino money and the lottery money does not go to the education. What happens is if the education budget is $500 million, and $1 million comes from the lottery or the casinos, $1 million goes in, and you take $1 million out the back and to put in the general fund.
No.
So it does not increase, the education budget never increases.
No,
they
no,
just say
excuse
it's
me,
for
that was
education?
the case before. What I am saying now, and it's my understanding, and for people who are on what they call the gaming commission, they don't call it.
No, I know what you're saying, but the education budget never increases.
And the lottery is something entirely different,
But
don't
no,
try to
but you know,
compare the
what you
two.
don't understand is, the education budget never increases. $500 million, they put $1
No,
million in.
but the money goes
And
into
they take it out.
out the back end, like you said.
It's a shell game.
Okay,
Yeah.
of course.
You're both saying the same thing.
But it
Yeah, we
is
get it.
at least going to education in some
No,
way
it's
or
not.
form,
In
okay?
name only, it sounds
Name
like.
Okay.
only, that's it, in name
Right,
only.
well, no, you and I can
It's a
talk,
feel-good- it's a
you and I
feel-good bill,
can
it's all it
discuss,
is.
you and I
Yeah,
can
that's a
discuss
shame.
that after
Okay.
this. Yeah,
Chris?
yeah.
Andrew, as I mentioned this before, and I do want to make this very clear for the record.
That's too bad.
Yeah,
Shell game.
it's a shell game, but either way,
Well,
I want to focus on, let's focus on Omni for a second, 'cause
Let's focus.
I want to focus, what I'm trying to say is, because, the Omni reduced fare, as I mentioned this before, and I really want to make clear that the monthly for Omni must still be in there, Andrew, because low-income families, seniors, and people with disability need that, because it's their easiest budget to go where they want to go from home.
Everybody needs the benefit of a monthly.
But I want to be very clear for the record, because as a person with a disability and dealing with everyone, they're all concerned when the Omni comes in, they're gonna be worried, are they gonna still have a monthly on their Omni cards? And I'm asking this clearly because we really do need it, because people like to travel on the buses and
Absolutely.
subways.
No idea.
Yeah.
At this point, we just don't know.
We don't know yet.
Well,
but-
in the meantime is, I
At this
still,
point, it's a weekly and a weekly and a weekly and a weekly.
weeklies might work okay, but monthlies right
The
now,
fact that they are talking about initiating it on Metro North and Long Island Railroad sort of portend that it will also be available in a monthly version.
Well, I'd like to be clear for the record that,
Yeah.
I'd like to be clear on the record as a Transit Riders
Do you like
Council
that
member.
word, portend?
You said it. You like it, Andrew. But I just want to get my, trying not to laugh at the same
Okay.
time. I really want to keep myself on this record to make sure that the reduced fare for monthly is on
But it's
the
becoming a
table.
broken record, Chris.
It's gonna be a broken record until I see it, and I'm gonna keep fighting for it,
Okay,
for the record.
enough of that now.
I'm done.
Lisa, do you want to give an update on office and what's going on now that we, had an associate director who is now
Sure.
gone?
We, yes, we are, beginning a pursuit for a new associate director.
I'll take it.
We're not giving it away. We've just, we've developed a new job description that we have submitted to.
And it's quite a job description.
It is.
Wow.
We have developed
Find
this,
anybody, that's yeah.
that's
A
the
little off-putting,
goal.
but,
No.
you know.
Oh, no, it's a
Just
lot,
take job description and place the lies in your cover letter to cover the job
There you
description.
go.
well, that's, called using artificial intelligence, and we have what we call a bullshit detector. But
one
the,
word.
we'll call it an AI detector.
BS detector.
Yes,
Yeah.
pardon me.
Yeah.
But I've sent the job description, through the compensation at MTA for them to do a review. I'd like to increase the, salary and, bump up the level of the position, that we can, changing the job description to better reflect the work that we're doing now, which of course uses research to inform. But as you know, we're doing a lot more outreach, officials and legislative-based work, and budgetary, in addition to advocacy. That is, that will probably take some time to do. At the same time, we've gotten as of yesterday, we had 84 applications. Backfill Kara's research and communication has been promoted to planning and advocacy manager, yay. Her title is, a change of title that had been planning manager. So as we have vacancies, we're reimagining what they are.
What's the time frame for the associate director are you expecting now?
I haven't heard back from company. So we'll go back and forth with them.
You might have to torment them a
We
little.
were bumped from the room we were supposed to be in today because they had a people department orientation, which hoping means they're bringing HR people. They're woefully understaffed
What is
there.
called the people department?
Yeah, so I'm hoping that means that they're bringing in more of those people to be responsive.
No,
and-
it's a
and
people department,
That's,
different.
That's right.
Isn't HR?
I don't know.
It must
That's what they told us. It's a lovely name.
If you look on their website,
But
there-
it's, hold on, let me just, we're coming to 20 minutes, and I'm gonna use 2 more minutes of that time. So I'm hoping that we, the associate director, 4 months, the, research associate, we're gonna divide and conquer tomorrow and see our, people who haven't submitted cover letters, and they're, because that's a requirement.
Need to, expedite the process as much as we're able to, and then ask HR to
Yeah.
do the same, because our folks are now doing the work of many more folks, and
Yeah.
and we want to do more and more things, so
Yeah, we do.
we need people.
Right, and we are, and I think you've all met Ryan, who's our intern, and Ryan is working with us on a fair policy report, so terrific, and we're sick last week, and it was nice to know that I could actually be out of the office and think that things would be.
What's the thing that Ryan's working on?
Fair policy.
Fair policy, okay.
Yeah, looking at all of the different fare structures across all of the different systems, and seeing about a
That actually
rationalization.
has come up in the Fair Evaluation Task Force, and the fact that there's a $500 monthly cap on commutation fares, but fare policy on Long Island Railroad and Metro North is very different from each other.
They're
as you
different
well
from each
are
other,
aware.
and they're different within themselves,
Yes, they are.
Yeah. so.
Yes, they are.
So that's where we are on staffing, so,
Lisa,
running as fast as we can forwards and backwards.
Lisa,
Yes.
is the consideration for this new position now, this new position, going to have contingent on the budget and whether,
No.
what our budget is or anything?
No.
We're included in the old budget? Oh, okay.
We have, we have positions that we haven't had to give up any positions.
Because, then, thank God it's not us, because one of the things, it's my understanding that, you know, depending on how long this hangs on, that there are going to have to be cuts and changes and everything else when we don't have a budget and we don't know how much money, so that they'll just be cut back. I hated to end on a negative note before, but as long as we brought it up.
Yeah,
But-
no, we're
good.
But as long as we're okay, you know,
yes, we are.
being very chauvinistic.
Okay, so we don't have that much more time. Can we get to old business?
Yes.
So, a long time ago, I mentioned that, we have to take a look what the authority is doing to protect its assets, and I mentioned graffiti. And I just read, online that one of the new...
You are to 11.
That's correct.
Yesterday they got it good.
Right, I read that.
Thank you for saying yesterday.
And they just completed that project of putting up the new fence, and, so what are they,
Embarrassing.
so what are they not doing, you know?
I don't know. I thought Coney Island Yard was really well watched, so I'm really
Right.
It's
surprised.
also tremendous.
What's that?
Thank you,
Yeah.
Scott.
It
It's
is
also
tremendous.
tremendous.
The biggest yard in the US,
Yes,
one of the largest in the world.
in the
But are
subway
people
corridor.
entering from the Sea Beach line? Are they, you know, how are they penetrating?
I will find out the
Envelope,
answer to
yeah.
how that happens.
You can actually get what line goes, what line passes through into
The-
Coney Island?
And,
So you get you can right off the train and walk right into the yard.
yeah, at 86th Street.
You walk right into the yard.
Yes.
That's what I was just saying, yeah.
Right into the yard, yeah.
Yeah. Direct?
You go to the beach.
Right.
Just one thing, I mentioned 94th Street line. I hope once they place those
Trudy?
But you'll see that Stuart and I are both wearing masks. Every time I get on a bus or a subway, I automatically put my mask on. I put this on. What I discovered that when people see me with my mask, and you'll pull them out of their pockets or something, I don't know if it's guilt or whatever. But also, on the buses, there are now, or at least on some of the buses, there's no signage, but there are announcements being made about put on your mask in some of the recorded announcements on some of the buses. I'll bring up again, and I know you've already written about this, Lisa, I think we've sent letters, we've sent everything, but if we could again bring this to the attention of some kind of signage, or some kind of anything, or some kind of a reminder, or maybe having even the same reminder on the subways that there are on the buses. I should have brought that up with, when they were here also.
They don't do that.
But, no, I'm talking about having the conductor make, or somebody make the, well, whatever it is, because they are now forecasting, all my doctor friends tell me, that there is going to be, at least come fall,
Another,
and that there is
new
also,
variant?
and there's also right now some kind of a new whatever it is,
vaccination.
Oh, no vaccination.
but whatever it is, and also for old folks like me, we are now able to get another vaccination, even though my doctor wants to wait to make sure, because you can be over-vaccinated. Whatever it is, without going into all of this, if we could somehow nudge once again about getting, about
A mask-only
something-
car or bus or something.
something,
Yeah.
well, not even a mask only, that's very difficult, given what goes on the, the subways, people just wanna get on, they're not gonna look for a sign. But somehow, some kind of signage, some kind of PSAs or something, that while it's not mandated, it's still advised or suggested or whatever to wear a mask.
I feel like that should prevail.
Yeah. There's somebody who testifies at the committee meetings and the board meetings every month about that. There are
Oh, no,
several
there are a
people.
couple
Yeah,
of
she,
people.
and she's on the Washington,
There are a couple of
Paul
people,
Washington
no,
Bridge,
there are a
so.
couple of people.
No, she lives on the Upper East Side.
There are a couple of people who testify at the board meeting. No, I know,
Right, but
all I'm
there's no,
saying-
it has no traction.
No, it really doesn't at the
but
moment.
maybe if it came from us
It would
again.
come from us, and it came from us while there was still active, it was, more of an active pandemic.
Well, okay, then I'm just going on record, or maybe we can even in this meeting, just go on record that we think something should be done about this.
I have seen on the, out front advertising panel,
Yeah.
an occasional flashing sign that says,
I
well,
see it
masks
on
are not.
everything.
Yeah,
I
occasional.
see it on
They are
buses and
recommended.
subways and commuter rails.
I have not seen, I,
Okay, folks, we're running
Okay,
out of time,
whatever
we
it
gotta
is.
get to new business.
New business?
Yes.
Andrew, if it's possible in the next few months, can we ask the Omni team to come back to give us a additional update?
I mean, I don't know, I would like the construction and development to get their hands,
Yeah, but
on this
I
now,
did
and,
see, I did see the new machine, because Q asked me to look at it, and it looks good, but as I told him again, I wanna see it when it's really powered up, because
Yeah.
there is some concerns.
it was a display model.
Yeah, well, no, thank you, 'cause it's better you said it. But I would like to have, them to give us, they gave a presentation at the board meeting, the subcommittee. I think it'd be best if we can get an update, what we need to prepare for the community, for our seniors and people with disabilities. We all need to know how can we advocate.
Not just seniors and people with disabilities, everybody needs to know how these
Maybe-
machines work.
Maybe about, how about maybe a PCAC in June?
I'll take that one.
I'm not asking you, I'm asking Andrew.
I will speak to Jamie and see if they're up to,
Okay.
if how, they have anything to tell us, how far along they are yet.
So Carl has,
I see his hand up.
but he also has written a long piece in the chat. Carl, is your hand raised about the same?
Yes, I wanted to speak about that issue. As you remember, the BX6 SBS route revision was put on hold as that extension because they don't want to spend money for more fan machines. So they were going to implement that after the Metro card was fully phased out, which would have been April 2024. Now that that date's been somewhat extended to an indefinite date, can the MTA take a look at still making the drop dead date to get rid of all those fan machines, and any of the few passengers that still may have a Metro card could just board in the front of the bus. That's my suggestion for that, because we don't want to keep waiting, because now the Queens bus redesign is be coming out soon, and then the Brooklyn, and I'm sure there's going to be changes to SBS routes that presently have fan machines that may be extended or shortened or whatever. So that's my suggestion, that they figure out a date, get rid of the fan machines for the SBS routes, and that'll save a lot of maintenance costs for the MTA, like that they have to repair the machines and put paper in them and ink and all that stuff. So I think that the MTA should take a look at that date. Get rid of the fan machines on SBS routes.
When we get the update on Omni, I'll see if we can get an update on what you just mentioned, but the fact that MetroCard will not be gone until 2025 leads me to believe that when they put the Omni machines in stations, they might still keep a MetroCard machine at each of them, because not everybody will have converted to Omni, so you have to have both for a period of time.
Oh,
So maybe.
right, and I mean on the bus, can't people, instead of paying for their fare with a ticket, just board on the front of the bus with the Metro card still, instead of use those fan machines outside?
Yep,
Just not pay.
yeah, no, I hear you.
are doing.
Good point, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Yesterday, I heard one of the MTA officials talking about the difficulty modeling Penn Station because it was so hard to deal with the Dolans. Understanding is that the Dolans have a special permission to have 250,000 people or something, instead of 2,500 people attending events. And that exception is up for renewal
Right.
this month. And if it's not renewed, I would think that the Dolans would be less interested, perhaps move to one of several local options. And we are, if you care about this and care about what happens with Penn Station as a group, but as individuals, contact your city council representative. Tell them that you would prefer not to have that exception.
Do we
So
have?
it's,
Sharon,
hold on, so
Sharon,
it's a
it's
special,
my
Trudy,
understanding,
Trudy,
Wait.
excuse me, Trudy, one sec. So it's a special permit
Yeah,
that the Community Board 5 recommended against renewing.
okay.
So we, as PCAC, testified at hearings, without taking a position on anything aside from, the most important thing is making sure that Penn Station works with us as soon as possible. That the work needs to be done now, we can't wait. So there's a plan to do the construction work now while everything else is being figured out. So if they revoke the permit, if there is, a 3-year, renewal, if there is whatever political fight, James Dolan's got a lot of money, and right now, the Knicks and the Rangers are both in the playoffs, so people kind of like him, even though I saw some fired James Dolan shirts yesterday, which I was looking to see where do I buy one, but but the, as in wearing my Knicks and Rangers, but the, there's the larger scale of what happens at Penn Station will enable a larger regional rail model, but what needs to happen for the Long Island Railroad Commuter Council and the railroads that are there, want to have a home that isn't horrible. That for Metro North to go into, but for Long Island Railroad to not want to flee. That's, right now, it's getting better, but the plan that they've put forward, that the MTA has put forward, and this is sort of what Jana was speaking about in less political terms yesterday, wouldn't require, the removal of the garden, or the Hulu Theater.
They don't even pay tax.
No, but Sharon, it is my understanding that because, as Lisa said, Community Board 5 especially, but to make a compromise, that there's special consideration, special permit, I'm not sure, I think it was a special permit, has now been extended for 3 years. And during that time, there will be consideration. But the big discussion about Madison Square, Garden was whether it was going to be part of the Penn Station redevelopment in a different form or whatever. The latest that I've heard is enclosing it in like.
There's several options.
Okay, but that was the one that they're now talking about up in Albany. And that as of today or as of yesterday, that Madison Square Garden as it is, as the home for, as Lisa said, and especially now with the mayor.
Has it been extended or not?
It has been extended, but only for 3 years. No,
Well, that's a lot of time.
well, I'm just saying, I am giving the quote,
Okay.
the only was
Okay.
part of the
I think
extension.
our biggest concern, and I'm sure I'm speaking for Randy and Jerry as well, is that there is track capacity for all of the service that needs to be there, which includes the upcoming New Haven line of Metro North, the eventual Hudson line of Metro North, which a lot of people are pushing for, obviously Amtrak, New Jersey Transit. I'm not sure that we have enough
That's at the West Hampton.
enough track space right now to do all these things. We want through running, we would love to have regional rail, something Liam and I and Randy spoke about when Liam was here, having trains like from New Haven to Trenton, regularly going through Penn Station, so that people can commute to various areas. Princeton and Stanford are big employment centers now. So we need these kinds of things, and what happens above is important, but what happens below is the most important. You've seen the new Penn Station, since Jano gave a tour, I'm sure, which is so improved, headroom, lighting, and destination signs on every pole, so everyone doesn't have to cluster in front of one place,
Even though they're still there.
even though, but they, I don't know why they do.
It's old habit.
You don't need to, you can be anywhere along that corridor between Seventh and Eighth Avenue and see when the next trains are. It's a definite improvement right now.
You can take off your glasses and I can still see it.
Getting Rose's Pizza back would be nice too.
I know Mr. X.
Mr. X, yes. Oh, yeah, we're there.
I meant to.
Which station, I'm sorry?
What, 80th Street? Uptown track, no bump up. Uptown track. Gas station, rebuild and making wheelchairs and most of the L below it is gone, but there's a small portion. And it, so to the next other L, so the current one. In addition to connecting the two Westchester Avenue L, the one from Westchester Avenue, there were two trains running on that street, and one boulevard. Building, it's only 3 tracks, A division, it's a small,
How far distance would you think that is?
Southern Boulevard and Willow Street. That. Because if
Yeah,
you're,
but that doesn't really.
if you're on the uptown side train, leaving Center Street, you'll see that L on the 6th train,
Yeah.
reaches Freeman Street.
Yeah, it's not a great distance. It could be done. I don't know that there's any appetite to do it, to be quite honest, but it could be done.
It would be nice.
It would be nice.
Okay, that. and
More
also
options, yeah.
One entry station, they're gonna say, got a small L right there, connected with the other L, right below the other 1 entry station. That could possibly eliminate shuttle train service between Darien and 1 Street. Won't go into 1941, which is before any of us.
Well, it's not shuttle service, it's through service, most of the day, but.
Well, but sorry, 19 is shuttle service. That
Yep.
started in 1941, before all of us were born.
All right, thanks. Interesting.
Not all of us.
Anybody else?
Andrew, I do have one last thing, and then I'm gonna say.
And why do you have 2 fingers up if you have 1 last thing?
Love and peace, that's what I'm gonna give you. No, I just wanna let everyone know, because if I didn't say this, just wanna let you know, we have Miss, help me say it back there? Yeah.
Miss Wheelchair New York?
Miss Wheelchair New York, who
You
won.
forgot that name?
Give me a break, I'm just getting over.
Why don't you give her name?
Her name is Miss
Kalia.
Kalia, thank you.
Hazlett.
Miss Paisley.
Hazlett?
Yeah,
That's like, almost like a town in New Jersey.
thank you, I knew he was gonna,
Hazlett.
Yeah.
yeah.
They do.
Just letting you know that she did win the upstate, and now you're going for?
Miss Wheelchair America.
That doesn't mean you have to wheel all the way to LA, does it?
Oh, according to the
No, it's Atlantic
contract.
City, Andrew.
Thank you.
Maybe according to the contract,
But
Not in LA, it's in Atlanta.
Yeah.
that's what Scott just said, can
You
you
don't have to wheel all there, do you? No.
No, but.
No, but she can take a rocket.
The Nationals are.
Well, the crowd looks wonderful on you, I have to say.
Well, thank you,
Congratulations.
I earned it, thank you.
How many contenders were there in?
The finals were 3, one was a doctor in molecular biology or
Yeah.
something, and then you have a big mouth, single mouth Brooklyn.
No, I'm sorry, there was someone bigger than that, but you actually were on the key.
Whatever it is
Let me
she
just say,
wants.
please, in response, and as a response to, our speakers today, if you see in non-rush hour,
Make sure it's not right.
nights, afternoons, not rush hour afternoons, nights, weekends, you see trains not, like, departing as soon as another one pulls in, and there's not another one directly behind it, please make a note of the car number so that we can report this, because they really do want to hear this.
Email it to PCAC?
Yeah.
We'll let Andrew know directly.
Mail it to mail@pcac.org, mail@pcac.org. No.
Because if, like, as Judy has noted on many occasions, and which I have witnessed, if it's the same conductor doing these things, we want to know that too.
I make a motion that the meeting be adjourned or whatever.
Second.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Right on the nose, too, on the real time, because that clock up there is ahead.
Andrew, wait a minute, can I just ask you one